dominating monster, the Hilux Revo GR concept. We're going to take you right from the gritty workshop floor through all that heavy fabrication, all the way to the jaw-dropping final specs. So let's just dive right in.
You know, it's really easy to just scroll social media and admire a polished, lifted, fully armored truck, right? But what does it actually take to build the ultimate Toyota Hilux? Well, today we're going from a raw pile of parts to a world-class off-road concept. And let me tell you, it takes vision, a ton of patience, and a seriously high tolerance for tearing things completely apart.
Because to build something extraordinary, you kind of have to strip away the ordinary first. Just look at this gutted front end. You've got exposed wiring harnesses, a completely naked radiator fan, and just this totally raw chassis. You literally have to strip the vehicle right down to its bones. Why? Well, you've got to make sure the structural integrity can actually handle the massive off-road upgrades that are coming. Plus, you really need to find any hidden weak points before you start slapping on thousands of pounds of custom gear.
And honestly, when you look across the shop floor, the visceral reality of this teardown phase is just staggering. With the hood popped and the engine bay completely exposed like this, crucial structural elements are basically being amputated from the cabin. Every scattered cooling fan, every toolbox, the impact wrenches just resting on those tiles, it all represents this incredibly methodical deconstruction. Every single clip and wire has to be tracked perfectly, while the truck's original identity is systematically removed. It's a massive undertaking.
But of course, every great build requires a flawless canvas. Here, we're seeing some intense body prep on the rear quarter panel, and this really shifts our focus from destruction to preparation. The team here isn't just bolting on new parts out of a box. No, they're fundamentally reshaping the whole musculature of the truck bed, using heavy filler to accommodate those massive custom fender flares. And the hours? The countless hours of hand sanding required to get these aggressive curves perfectly smooth, that is literally an art form in itself.
So once the body is finally shaped, the meticulous prep work just keeps going. Check out the intricate, patterned masking paper they're using to protect the door jambs. Anyone who's done this knows masking is arguably the most tedious part of the entire build. But it's absolutely crucial. One tiny gap, just one, and you've got primer or overspray completely ruining a perfectly good interior. This level of obsessive sealing is the only way to guarantee the spray guns hit their exact targets and nowhere else.
And here is the payoff. Right inside the pristine environment of the paint booth, that freshly painted base layer honestly looks like glass. This is the exact moment the whole project shifts from messy deconstruction into pure creation. This flawless white finish not only seals the bare metal against the elements, but it's going to serve as this amazing, high-contrast backdrop for all those aggressive Gazoo racing accents we'll see later. Just to give you a sense of scale here, a concept build like this is just a massive orchestration of time. Think about it. You invest days on the initial teardown and then weeks, literally weeks, into that tedious bodywork and primer phase. The custom paint itself, well, that might only take a few hours in the booth. But right after that, you're immediately back into weeks of careful component reassembly, which is then followed by days of precise fine-tuning. It's not a sprint, it's an absolute marathon. Okay, so once that paint finally cures, the momentum in the shop completely shifts. The team is now rebuilding the structural heart of the Hilux. You can see them bolting that heavy-duty black front crash bar right onto the freshly painted chassis. And this is a massive psychological milestone in the garage. It's that magical moment where the vehicle stops getting smaller and finally starts getting bigger again. The tools are out, the torque specs are dialed in, and the reassembly officially begins. And just look at that aggressive Gazoo racing styling finally taking shape. It's such a stark contrast seeing them test these raw, matte black replacement panels before locking in the final aesthetic. With that blacked out hood, those imposing dark fenders, and that massive front grille getting locked into place, the truck is transforming from a standard utility vehicle into a street-dominating predator right before our eyes. But hey, it isn't just about the exterior armor, right? Stepping inside the cabin, the attention to detail is just undeniable. That striking deep red seating, it perfectly complements the whole GR racing theme. The reassembled dashboard and center console look completely factory fresh, but they've got this upgraded custom edge to them. It really makes the driver's seat feel way more like the cockpit of a high-end performance machine rather than just your standard work truck. Now, zooming out for a second, we finally get to see the master plan. This official concept blueprint unveils two distinct, totally awe-inspiring variations of the build. First, you've got the SR spec in this brilliant metallic red, and then there's the black ivory spec in a rugged matte black finish. This right here is exactly where the real-world grit of the garage meets pure, high-level engineering design. These blueprints are laying out exactly what all those scattered parts and freshly painted panels are ultimately destined to become.
Now, despite their obvious visual differences, both of these beasts share the exact same foundational off-road DNA. At their core, they're both running on Toyota's legendary 2.8-liter turbo diesel engine, paired up with a 6-speed automatic and a super robust part-time four-wheel drive system. So beneath all that flashy custom bodywork, what you actually have is a seriously torque-heavy powertrain. It's a system designed to crawl over jagged rocks, power through deep mud, and basically conquer the absolute worst conditions nature can possibly throw at it.
All right, let's geek out on the mechanics for just a second. As you can see, both trucks feature a massive 4-inch or 100mm suspension lift, but their footwear, vastly different. The SRP spec is rocking these massive 22-inch wheels with 325 width tires, giving it this incredibly aggressive street warrior stance. On the flip side, the Black Ivory spec drops down to a 20-inch wheel, but it wraps it in these absolutely gargantuan 37-inch tires. And that's super important because it gives it that crucial extra rubber sidewall you need to air down and actually gain traction on those brutal, jagged rock trails.
And the Black Ivory spec doesn't stop there. It is absolutely loaded with a specialized survival arsenal. We're talking custom fender markers and steady sidelights so you can see perfectly in pitch black conditions. Up front, you've got this heavy-duty custom bumper housing a fully integrated recovery winch, and underneath, a heavy-duty Sun Jungle skid plate to protect the truck's underbelly from any catastrophic rock damage. Make no mistake, this is a truck built purely for survival.
But then, on the other side of the coin, the SRP spec takes a totally different path. I mean, those glossy black finishes and that heavily sculpted hood, they look like they belong on a track car. Combine that with those striking LED projector headlamps, and it gives the truck this incredibly menacing, focused glare. So, while the Black Ivory is all about surviving the jungle, the SRP is really more about dominating the asphalt and the dirt with high speed, sleek, and just super aggressive style.
So bringing those polished blueprints back into reality on the physical shop floor, wow. The reality of that stance is just undeniable. That crisp white paint completely pops against the aggressive black wheels, those massive fender flares, and that heavily vented carbon-style hood. Just sitting there on the shop tiles, literally dwarfing the equipment all around it, that's when you truly appreciate the sheer physical presence this machine commands in the real world.
And finally, we arrive at the absolute art of automotive transformation. Look at this commanding rear profile. You've got the angular steel bumper, that incredibly sleek paint job, and of course, the iconic Gazoo racing decals proudly displayed right there on the tailgate. This right here represents the ultimate payoff. It is a literal masterclass in custom truck building, perfectly blending rugged off-road utility with those high-end, race-inspired performance aesthetics.
So we've gone from a chaotic pile of scattered parts and bare metal all the way to a breathtaking Gazoo racing concept. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this final thought. After witnessing the sheer engineering grit, the hours, and the passion behind this transformation, is a custom truck ever truly finished? Or is it just sitting out there in the driveway, quietly waiting for its next evolution? Honestly, the possibilities in off-road engineering are endless. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today.